Hey everybody, I'm Chef Tom with atbbq.com, and today I'll be making Korean barbecue short ribs. Now in American style barbecue short ribs, you're used to seeing these big old brontosaurus bones with a huge hunk of meat on top. What you're gonna see today looks drastically different. With the Korean style barbecue short rib, or LA kalbi, what you're seeing is a lateral cut. That's the LA part. So these cuts, they're gonna go across the bone very thin. Now the recipe isn't all that complicated, and the magic is all in the marinade, so that's what we're gonna jump into first. I'll start with the soy sauce base. So there's a half cup each of soy sauce and water. We'll add to that about 6 tablespoons of brown sugar, 4 tablespoons or a quarter cup of mirin, and some black pepper. And just give that a whisk. Start to dissolve the sugars. Now the other part of this marinade consists of some fruit and some aromatics. So we're starting with these Asian pears or Korean pears. If you can't find these around, you can use a Bosc pear, that will work as well. We've also got some aromatics, some onion, some garlic, and a little bit of sesame oil. This is all gonna get pureed down into a really fine marinade. All right, so we're gonna take the flesh off these pears. Skin on, skin off, it's up to you. I don't mind the skin. Don't at me, bro. Just give it sort of a rough chop and then into the blender. We're gonna do 2 of these pears, probably be about 3 cups of pear in the end. So that probably comes out to more like 4 cups. Next we have just a yellow onion. Probably use about 3/4 of this onion. That'll be just the right amount. And again, we're just gonna do a rough chop on these. Now I'm gonna add about 6 cloves of garlic. Probably just crush these down really good. Get the skins off. The skins wouldn't hurt anything flavor-wise, but the papery texture that's on the outside of the garlic as well as on the outside of like the onions, it tends to want to stick to meat. And we don't want to have to chew on it later if it gets stuck to the meat. And last, we're gonna look for about a teaspoon of minced ginger, fresh ginger. Not gonna go too heavy on that. All right, got the blender loaded up. Get it on the Vitamix here. One last thing, just gonna do a couple of tablespoons here, sesame oil to help things move. Great flavor comes out of that sesame oil too, super aromatic. Woo! That smells awesome. Get the sesame. Definitely get that sesame coming out of there. The aromatics from the garlic, ginger. We're gonna get some slight sweetness from the pear. All right. All of that into our soy sauce base. So now we got our marinade. Should be this nice, light, creamy brown color. Almost looks like a latte or something. It's gonna have a taste and see where it's at. Woo! It's pungent, which is great. We want those flavors really forced into the meat. It's a little bit sweet. The aromatics are really sticking out right now. And it's got just a touch of saltiness from the soy sauce. So all of that's gonna work to break down and add flavor to the short ribs. All right, so here I have 3 pounds of the short ribs. So that's what it looks like. We're getting a really long strip. So you can see how the bones would be running in this direction, and we've cut laterally against them. And these, because they're cut across the bone, I like to give them a good rinse in water, which is what I've already done today, so that any bone fragments that are still around there, we get those washed away. So we're transferring these over to our briner bucket. This is where we're gonna let the marination happen. And we're gonna take our marinade and go right over the top. Work that around so that all of our meat surfaces are touching marinade. Get that fully submerged. Lock it into place. And this is going to go into the refrigerator for at least 4 hours, or overnight is great as well. And overnight works out really well because you can do this the night before. When you wake up in the morning before you head off to work, you take the meat out of the marinade, just throw it in a plastic bag or another container, and it's already marinated, ready to go on the grill when you get home. Now while we wait on our beef to marinate, I'm gonna put together a sauce, a dipping sauce for the meat. It doesn't specifically need to be for beef short ribs. It's great for vegetables, with cucumbers, with carrots, all kinds of stuff. But this is a Korean barbecue dipping sauce called samjang, and it's based off of a couple of really great fermented, already made products, like a fermented chili paste, a fermented soybean paste. So let's just jump right into it. So we're gonna start off with a ½ cup of gochujang. This is the fermented chili paste. Got a nice funkiness to it, just a touch of heat. Not gonna blow you out though, it's not terribly hot. We've got a couple tablespoons of doenjang. This is the fermented soybean paste, and it is funky. It really adds the umami. Now to bring a little extra heat, I'm gonna be adding a serrano pepper. Now I'm sure this isn't any sort of traditional ingredient for a Korean dish, but you know, you gotta use what you have around you. Jalapenos will work as well. I'm gonna keep the seeds in for the extra heat and just take this down kind of to a mince. We want this sauce to have some texture to it, and this is going to be what really adds some chunkiness to the sauce. Next, I'm gonna add about a ¼ cup of green onions, sliced nice and thin. Might even mince those down just a little bit more. So between the green onion and the serrano, you're gonna get some really nice freshness added to these fermented chili flavors. A little more than what we need. Continuing with the aromatics, I'm gonna add some garlic, about 4 cloves. Crush these down and mince them up. Now keep in mind as you're breaking down the garlic that you want to go pretty fine with this. This isn't getting cooked at all, so you've got to imagine biting into a fresh piece of garlic. How big a piece of garlic do you want to bite into? Probably not real big. But we do want that garlic flavor showing up in there. And I love the intensity of it when it's fresh, as long as it's manageable. One of the things you can do to really get this broken down fine is lay your knife flat on top of the garlic and just sort of drag it across the surface there. So we're breaking down some cell walls, and then we're displaying it so that it's easier to get a cut all the way across. And for the final 4 ingredients, we have a tablespoon each of sesame oil, mirin, honey, and sesame seeds. And then it's just bringing everything together. You can see it's a beautiful sauce. Great aroma coming off of it. I'll get a taste here in just a second. Once we get this in the fridge, it's gonna taste even better tomorrow or several hours from now when we're eating our beef ribs. So much umami, just huge flavor. That heat sneaking up on you a little bit too. One thing you can do, this is pretty thick as you've seen, if you want to just add a little bit of water, and you can make it the consistency that you want it to be. Maybe a little bit thinner is easier for dipping stuff into. Maybe you want all that extra heat clinging on to your beef or your vegetables or whatever it is, and you leave it nice and thick. It's up to you. We're pulling these short ribs out of the marinade now, and it's really easy to prepare them from the grill. There's really nothing to do except to wipe that excess marinade off. We're ready to get these grilling. Now you can see here that these short ribs have a lot of fat on them, which means we're gonna see some flare-ups, which also means we're gonna get some great char on these. Now the balance you have to find when you're doing that is that you're not getting a fire too hot or the meat too close to the coals, because those flames at some point will completely blacken your short ribs. You can make adjustments, and especially on the grill we're cooking on today, which is the Kamado Joe Classic 2, you've got a couple of height options as far as where you set your grates. So you want to get close to the coals, but if you find you're too close, you can always raise them up. It also depends on just how hot that fire's running. We've got a pretty big hot fire going today because we really want to get some good char on these. All right, last one. We're sitting at about 475 degrees inside this grill right now. And if you're at home, you're wanting to cook on your gas grill or your pellet grill, I'd recommend shooting for the same range, about 475. And you want a direct setup, so flame directly underneath the meat. We've got great sizzle coming off the grates, which tells us we're cooking plenty hot. Immediately I smell the caramelization happening, and that's coming from the brown sugar as well as the sugars in the pear. Now we're gonna close this door up just to make sure that that air is flowing through there nice and fast. So we already start to see these shrinking up after just a few minutes. Oh yeah, we're getting some good caramelization going on there. And I think that as these start to finish out, we're gonna see the fat rendering out, and we'll get a little bit more char from the flare-ups and the fat coming off of these. Now we're starting to see that char that we're really looking for. But this is beautiful down here. Some of this, and you can see the way that fat's just sizzling away. That's what's caramelizing so nicely for us. So this is difficult trying to figure out when you want to pull these off. There's not a temperature that we're cooking to. It's really just for a feel. All right, so color's great. We're gonna see doneness wise, what are we looking for? When we kind of pull on this, it starts to pull apart, but it should have some decent tug to it. So that looks a lot tougher than, say, if you're pulling brisket or something. This is supposed to have a bite to it, but you shouldn't be chewing on it all night. All right, so that rich brown color with the bubbling char, that's exactly what we're looking for. Let's go ahead and pull the last of these off of here. There's a number of great ways to enjoy your Korean barbecue short ribs. Over rice is great, especially with some of that ssamjang sauce that we made. You could stuff it into a lettuce leaf, or some steamed cabbage is always really nice. I'm just gonna go for a dunk in the sauce just so we can get a full flavor profile of what's going on here. Now let's take a dip. Those are really great together. I love the heat that the sauce adds. Got me in the back of the throat there. The ribs themselves, not all that spicy. They're great for the kids, they're great for the adults. They've got great flavors, that fruit flavor. The ginger even pops out a little bit, even though we put so little of it in there. It's got just the right bite to it. This is a really great dish for barbecues, for dinners, whatever you're doing. Give the Korean barbecue short ribs a shot. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to check out atbbq.com for all of the products featured in today's recipe. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button. And if you have any questions or comments, or there's anything you'd like to see me cook, let me know in the comment section down below, and let's be good to one another. For more recipes, tips, and techniques, head over to thesauce.atbbq.com. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.